Hey everybody, if you're looking to jazz up your holiday salads, what we're gonna do is make a pomegranate salad today. We're gonna go ahead and use pomegranates, we're gonna use candy cane beets, and lots of other fresh vegetables and jazz it up with a creamy orange basil salad dressing. Come and check it out and enjoy. How we doing, everybody? Today we're gonna make a healthy pomegranate salad with an orange basil creamy dressing. Let's get to it. What I have here first and foremost is a big old jicama. This is gonna add a nice crunch to our salad. If you've never worked with jicama before, these can come in various different sizes, from being this small to being as small as an orange and being double the size. It really depends on where it's grown and where you're getting it from. So if you've never worked with it before, we're gonna take this jicama and we're gonna simply start taking the skin off. I do prefer to use a knife to take the skin off the jicama because the skin is pretty deep. So if you're using a peeler, you're gonna have to probably wind up going a few strokes deep to really get the skin completely removed. Using a knife tends to be much more efficient. So this has a nice crunch to it. Kind of like a similar texture to like an apple. So think about when you're making your salad, what's gonna make it kind of pop with different, not only flavors, but colors, textures, and all the above. And the more you have in there, not only is it going to, hopefully, pair well and nicely together, but it's going to taste great as well, and it's going to give you more nutrient value from all the other things that you're adding into there. So we'll take this, we'll cut this down into small little pieces like this. You can go ahead and cut it a little thicker. Maybe you want to make jicama sticks. We serve these on our crudité cups here, as opposed to doing just celery and carrot sticks. Do jicama sticks. Get yourself out of your comfort zone. Can't stress that enough. And we'll talk about some other things you can turn into some crudité sticks as opposed to always using your standard celery and carrots once we get to them. So what I'm doing here is I'm pinching up on this knife here. This way it gives me a little bit more control. I'm using my knuckles as a guide as well. This way when I'm pushing down with the tip of the knife, I'm using my knuckles as a guide. I can sit here and just keep looking at you, and I can feel where my knife is because I can feel where my knuckle is here. So getting these little julienne strips is kind of what I'm looking to do. I'll cut those once in half so that way they're not such long pieces of jicama. Again, when you're using your knife, try to use the back middle part of your knife to chop through things. Many people, when they chop things up, they tend to use this part of your knife, which is always going to be less efficient in the end. So I'll show you one second what I'm talking about. If you're using this part of your knife only to cut things up, it works, but not as well as using this part of your knife. So again, don't use this part. More or less try to use this part to cut through things. Cutting this bell pepper around the center of it like this here. You have nothing really but the seed and the stem left at the end. We'll take this here. If you want to remove that white part, you can, but it's totally optional. You don't have to get rid of that part. We'll put this piece on top of that piece, and now we'll get this salad done even faster here. Kind of pressing down on this so that way it doesn't move around as I'm doing it. Again, tip of the knife down, rocking it forward. I'm not pulling the knife towards me because if I do like this, just less effective overall, right? So just little things that just make a big difference when you're trying to make of course, a big salad or chopping a bunch of vegetables for a soup or whatever it is you're chopping yourself up for. Let's go on to something a little bit more unique here. Here I have a watermelon radish. Why are they called watermelon radishes? Well, they have a green skin and kind of like a purpley fuchsia type of center. Now, I would absolutely recommend leaving the skin on to this watermelon radish because you lose additional contrast if you peel the skin off. So it's totally edible. And what we're gonna do here is take this, cut it in quarters like this, and then cut it into a little bit more of a wedges, which you can then serve as your little crudité sticks if you wanted to, like that. Or what we'll do here is cut them the opposite way. So we wind up having these little, almost like little watermelon wedges essentially in my salad here. So again, I try to get ones that are a little bit more green on the outside because you get a little bit more contrast. Sometimes they're not going to be green the whole entire way through, but it is what it is. It just certainly adds a nice little extra pop to your salad or whatever you're using it for. I was at a restaurant recently and they used watermelon radishes sliced thin on every single thing they were serving as a garnish, which almost became a little redundant. So, use it and enjoy it, but don't just use it only as a garnish. Incorporate it in your salads. Another nice one to use is a purple radish. These are called purple ninja radishes to be more specific. If you can't find these things at a grocery store, you can always get a good relationship with the produce manager and see if they can't source them and bring them in for you. Because it adds a nice little extra pop to your salads. Same thing, leave the skin on this particular one. This way you get a little bit more contrast of color and of course more nutrient value by doing that. If you want to quarter the radish, you can, or just simply cut it in half and then slice it thin, how we're doing here, like little half moons essentially, whatever you prefer to do. Working with a large cutting board as well allows me to keep shifting things over. This way I'm not working with this little tiny mini cutting board and I'm constantly moving things off of it, every single thing I chop up. Just less effective overall. Let's take these here. I have a candy cane beet. Why are they called candy cane beets? Well, happy holidays. You have your candy canes here in vegetable form. So we'll take the top and the bottom off of this. Same idea as the jicama. I certainly prefer to peel this with a knife because it's just faster, and then your skin is a little deeper to use a peeler. You do have to kind of peel it like 2 or 3 times to go deep enough to remove the skin completely. If you can't find it and you really want to source these things, you can always look online. There's many companies who are set up to just distribute this all over the country, even all over the world, and they'll ship it to you. They'll charge you a premium for it. But if you can't find it locally, these things do ship, 2 or 3 day shipping, even overnight if you want any, and they're even shelf stable. Sitting at room temperature for a day or two, shipping isn't going to negatively affect it overall for most of these things. So talk to the produce manager, see if you can't bring them in for you. But if not, you can always use other things. Use golden beets if that's all you can find, which I also brought with me as well. Because when I was making the salad, I was just thinking, what can we make in here to make it as colorful as possible and to make it as flavorful as possible. So I think this is probably enough beets here, but as you see, they do have a nice little extra kind of contrast and pop to them. We'll just add those in there and we'll move this to the side here. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing. I have a golden beet. I mentioned this, and the reason I'm using this today is because I did want to actually use yellow grape tomatoes in here to kind of get that yellow and a little bit more of a variety of texture, but I didn't have any, so no big deal. It's not the end of the world. You can use yellow bell pepper, use yellow beets, heck, use yellow cauliflower if you wanted to. Use whatever you want, nothing yellow. It's really up to you, but again, it will make the whole salad just more vibrant and colorful overall. So I'll cut this thin, kind of similar as we did the other things, and then line that up here, and we'll get these chopped up and same thing, right? Like just like this. Cut this in your crudité sticks. It adds a nice little extra color. Serve that with your hummus. Just these 2 things alone, you can see this adds a nice little extra, contrast there, right? Jicama and golden beets. You start throwing some candy cane beets in there in the mix, you're in business here. I mean, this stuff just makes it that much more exciting to eat your vegetables whenever you're serving it. So we'll line these up here as best as possible to kind of break these down into smaller pieces as we did the other things. And it's really up to you what you want to put into your salad. I can't emphasize that enough. As long as what you're doing is putting lots of vegetables, ideally, if you want to throw some fruit in here. Like today, we're obviously using pomegranate as the fruit base, but maybe you can't find pomegranate. Maybe you want to use other things. Maybe you want to use berries or grapes or cranberries, whatever it may be. Try to avoid the dried fruit if you are going to use fruit. And if you're going to use other things, try using beans, grains, put other things in your salad. There's all types of stuff you can explore to add into here. So next thing we'll do is we'll add cucumbers in here. Now this is called a seedless cucumber. That's what they call them. They're certainly not seedless. So what we'll do here is we'll cut around the core, which is totally edible. I mean, you can definitely put the whole thing in here, just chop it up, slice it, however you want to do it. Most places will usually slice this on an angle like this. So, that's all good. And skin is totally edible, however you want to slice this. What we'll do here today is try to somewhat achieve a similar kind of idea as we did with the other things and cut this into like julienne pieces here, cutting around the core, and save this core. This is definitely still usable, but what I would say, maybe save this to make a sauce. We have a creamy cucumber herb sauce that we use for our cedar plank salmon, and it is super tasty that you can change that up in whatever other kind of directions you want. Use cilantro instead of basil, use lime instead of lemon. That sauce is on our recipe, that recipe is on our website, and everything that we're making here, you'll find on our membership part of our website, which has a lot of different things to try out. And this way you get a lot more things to use when you go home. All right, so we have the green in here. We can put a little bit more of that green skin part of the cucumber in here to get some more contrast. And we're making our way to the last thing. We're almost to the carrot, and then we'll do the pomegranate as well. And if you can only find regular cucumbers, that's fine. You can really put broccoli in here, put whatever other sort of green things you want to put into here. Throw some edamame in here if you want. Again, it's really up to you. All right, I think that we have enough there. Let's put a little carrot in here. Now, I used my knife to cut everything so far. These carrots have already been peeled because sometimes my chefs in the back just start peeling everything we have in-house. This little tool is called a julienne peeler. Kind of looks like a peeler, but there's little teeth on there. So it grabs into the carrot as it passes over it, and it rips off these little julienne strips of carrot very effectively to get this texture. So these are pretty long. So for a stir fry, this would be suitable, but for my salad, I just want to cut them down so everything is more bite-sized here. So we'll line this up. We'll run the knife through it every other inch or two. Doesn't have to be perfect by any means. And already, we have a pretty colorful salad here. So we can make it even more colorful and more vibrant. We'll take some of this pomegranate. Pomegranate's a pretty tricky fruit to work with here. I went ahead and took one whole pomegranate and de-seeded or defruited the whole outside part of it. And to do that effectively can be quite a challenge for some people. And there's many different ways you can look online and kind of get this out of here. But your best bet sometimes is just cutting them into quarters like I did here. And what we'll do, just kind of give you a better visual, is you can cut this into quarters and then kind of squeeze this. And you'll start getting not only the juice coming out, but you'll start popping those seeds out as well, probably staining my white countertop here. But it's pretty easy to kind of start popping those out. It's tedious. It's tedious to kind of pick through this little other part of it here, but I did it already because it will take a little bit more time than we have to do this video to kind of get that little part out and to pick through all there to get to use the whole entire thing. I mean, pomegranates can range from $3 to $5 just for one of them, so you want to make sure you get your money's worth it. And sometimes you could actually find the little this part of the pomegranate just already done at a grocery store. They do sell that sometimes. So if that's with no added sugar, that would be a fine, suitable alternative to try out. All right, so let's take this and we'll mix this all together. There's quite a lot of vegetables going on here. A lot of colorful things. Let's add this pomegranate into there. And what you might find is the pomegranate may stain the jicama a little bit. That's fine, right? You might find if you're using beets, that'll also happen. It'll stain the more white vegetable. The pomegranate juice may do that to the jicama somewhat, but that's what it's gonna look like so far. We're gonna add a nice creamy orange basil dressing with this salad here. So, of course, if you wanna throw more pomegranate in there, we have some kind of locked in the bottom, so we'll have to stir that up a good amount. And whatever other dressing you may wanna use, it's really up to you. Let's go ahead and show you how to make this dressing. And one of the key things is cleaning as you go, as best as possible. The more you clean up as you're going and cooking, the less cleanup you have at the end to clean. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we're going to base this off of parsley, a flat leaf Italian parsley. We're also gonna use fresh basil. The beauty of this recipe is I can swap out the basil and maybe use dill, or maybe I wanna use cilantro and make a cilantro orange creamy dressing, or make a dill creamy dressing, So maybe you don't want to use orange. Maybe you want to use lime and cilantro, or lemon and basil. You can keep the recipe the same, but swap out two major components, the citrus and one of the main herbs, and have a whole new flavor profile. So parsley and basil is what we have so far. We're also going to add a little bit of this ground up Mrs. Dash. Mrs. Dash has a lot of flavor going on in there. With the dehydrated vegetable flakes of Mrs. Dash, we grind it up so that a lot more flavor comes out of it. You have like dehydrated orange and tomato and carrot in there. So grind it to a powder is the way to go, especially for a recipe like this. This is some minced garlic. This is some Dijon mustard. You will never see us serve Dijon mustard in this little container to you, but you will see us use a small bit of it like this by spreading it out in a larger volume of a dressing like we're making here today. There is a no salt added mustard that we do use here if we need to use a lot of mustard for something. And that's from a company called West Bray Natural. It's a no salt added stone ground. This is our green jalapeno hot sauce. Some people call this like a verde sauce. What we're gonna do here is take a little bit of vinegar next. This is apple cider vinegar. We're also going to use apple juice concentrate to balance out all the sharpness you're getting from the vinegar, the garlic, the mustard. We don't want to make this sweet, but you want to make a balanced flavor. And we're using orange juice concentrate as well. You can certainly use fresh oranges, right? Use some fresh orange zest, use the juice. This concentrate is an easier way to use this, and it's going to give you a much more intense flavor of orange. I have two different sour creams here. This is fat-free, this is light, right? When they say it's light, sometimes it's really just up to them how they consider light. Sometimes it's 30% less fat, this one is 50% less fat. Hey, that's better than using regular sour cream. That's all you can find. But if you can find fat-free, it does work great, and that's what we're going to use here today. All right, let's get this out of here. We'll blend it up. If you want to use yogurt, like Greek yogurt, that's a good alternative. If you want to use even silk tofu, that has to be silken tofu, it'll blend up creamy and smooth, just like this will. So turn it, put it in your blender. See, the blender knew. I didn't even hit it. It just stopped on its own. It knew it was going too long. You're not looking to make this like a St. Patrick's Day dressing. It shouldn't be green. So if you let the herbs up, keep just blending, it's going to make the whole sauce turn into like a very green sauce, which is not really what we're looking for, right? You want it to be white, like a tinge of white with those specks of green flakes of those fresh herbs that were chopped up into there by the blender. So I think the lid just kind of somehow came off. The button came open or something, but either way, it was done to come off. Just showing you how thick this gets. Pour this in a cup here so you can see this. This blade does come out, so if you buy a Ninja blender, be careful with that. You can see how thick this is. That's a nice flavorful dressing here. We'll go right on our salad here. Now this is just like snack salad that we would serve by itself as like a slaw type, snacky, in the middle of the morning type salad, maybe in the early afternoon. Heck, you could put this on a whole bed of mixed greens or something if you wanted to, though. You don't have to serve it just by itself like we're going to do here today. The best tool in the kitchen are these two things, right? Put some gloves on, get it mixed up quick and easy, and you don't sit anywhere with a pair of tongs trying to keep stirring it around. To make this look a little bit more presentable, what we can do is, since we have orange in here, we can put it in this bowl, and we can rim the bowl with some orange slices. So I'm going to put about 75% of my salad in here now. I'll reserve a little bit to put at the end. This way it doesn't look like we shoved orange slices in there as an afterthought. You see the pomegranate is definitely more pronounced now since we got a little bit more from the bottom kind of picked out of there. So let me show you what I'm talking about with these orange slices here. People eat with their eyes, right? So if it doesn't look visually appealing, which it pretty much does already, we can make it look even more though. They're going to want to just dive right into it and try it out. So we'll take the extra dressing, which has about maybe 4 or 5 days shelf life in the refrigerator. So you can make this well in advance if you wanted to. You don't have to make it all the same day of. If you do have a white countertop and you get things like this pomegranate on there, it may stain, or beet juice. You will usually have to use some sort of like diluted bleach to get that off of that stone. FYI, if that ever happens to you. All right, after you clean everything off though, right? Don't start putting bleach anywhere around here now. All right, so let's go ahead and get this done. And the salad's finished, but just to make it look more presentable, what we'll do here, if you wanted to save this for the next day, a day after, it's fine. But if you're looking to save it maybe 2 days or 3 days later, I would say keeping the vegetables separately than the sauce will be the way to go, so that way you don't make the vegetables turn soggy. That will happen if it sits for more than a day with the dressing on there. So let's take these oranges here. We'll slice them like this. We'll slice them in half, and then we're going to basically cut them in little thin slices like this, trying to keep it together as much as possible here. And I'll show you why we're trying to do this here. We'll take that piece, we'll put that there. We'll do this again. And you could do this with lemon or lime or tomato slices, whatever you want to do this with. Cucumber slices, cut it in half, shingle it out like this here. Okay, we'll bring that bowl around over here. We'll take this and we'll just kind of lay that in there like that, right? And of course, you may need to use 2 oranges overall to kind of get this fully complete. But it will make the whole entire dish just look that much prettier once it's all said and done. We can slice one more orange real quick and we'll get that in there. And then you see here that there's a big gap here, right? That's what the extra salad's for. It will fill that once we actually have the whole thing done with the oranges. So again, putting about 75% of the salad is what you want to do here initially, and then we'll finish the rest of it once the orange slices are in there. So that way you're not trying to shove the orange slices in there, or it doesn't look like they were like an afterthought at the end. And just little things like this kind of give a subtle hint, like, hey, there's orange in this salad, because there's a bunch of orange slices around the salad. There must be orange in there, right? So we'll take this here, we'll shingle that out again. We'll get this going in here. If I can get this right. And of course, you can make this look as pretty or as quick as you want to do it. I mean, you can really sit there and be very specific with how you're shingling these out here. If you want to do a lemon and lime, if you want to make it look really contrast with yellow and green the whole entire way. Once you get to this end piece here where you kind of started, we'll lift that up. So that way it basically looks all completely seamless at the end. We'll go ahead and try to make it as even as possible like this here. And right now, we'll take the rest of our salad, get that into there. So that way it really looks like a full, complete dish. Like I said, save a little of that salad because now it looks a little bit, a little more complete. We'll drizzle a little bit more of that dressing on top so it can all kind of just fall through the cracks. That's it. Our pomegranate salad, just drizzle that in a little bit here. Lots of fresh vegetables, creamy orange basil dressing. Enjoy. Folks, if you like this video and you want to see another cooking demonstration, click here. If you want to listen to our podcast, click here.